Hey everybody, I'm Chris. Thanks for watching today. We've just passed week 16, so most fantasy football leagues have had their championship. If you won, congratulations. If you fell just a little bit short, we'll get them next year. We wanted to thank you for this season. This YouTube channel really wasn't active as of like August of this year, and because of you, we've had a great time making it. We got over 20,000 subscribers in one single season. Pretty unbelievable. Not exactly what we expected. The podcast has gone great. If you haven't been listening to the podcast, I will continue to do that once per week in the off season. You can check it all out at harrisfootball.com. Now, as kind of a wrap-up / look ahead kind of thing for today, we thought we would count down for 2019 5 players we expect to be overdrafted. 5, we'll call them busts for 2019. We'll count them down 5 through 1, and of course, by the NFL draft and by next summer, the situations may have changed, but it's fun to think about who might get overdrafted this coming season. Okay, the first bust on this list is a cheat. It's basically all fantasy defenses. I'll put the Bears defense on here as the representative of this notion because, well, they've been the highest scoring defense for fantasy this year. And there are really 2 points to be made here. First, and easiest, is that year over year, the top fantasy defense doesn't stay the top fantasy defense. Does anyone remember the indispensable defense that you were supposed to draft a little bit early last year? That's right, Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 28th this year in sacks. Year before that, Vikings, who wound up 2017 not even as a top 10 fantasy defense. The other point that I would make is defense itself, it's become sort of an antiquated notion in the NFL in 2018. You know, in 2017, 16 teams, half the league, finished with 100 defensive fantasy points. This year, going into week 17, exactly 8 teams have 100 points. You know, if every defense has the potential to kill you by giving up 35 or 40 scoreboard points in any given week, good heavens, just wait until round 16. Hey, get back to the bust list in a second. I wanted to thank today's sponsor and also tell you a story of my holiday gift giving this week. I went up to the Valley to see my cousin Lauren and her husband Ron, and I came bearing the gift of phone cases. Scooch, our sponsor Scooch, and this is my phone inside my Scooch phone case. It has a little stand built in. You pop it, and it pops, sort of like a plastic snap bracelet. You remember those things? But it's a stand. Every time I FaceTime or Facebook Live or anything like that, I stand the phone right up. When I go to sleep and I have an alarm set, I stand the phone. I love this thing. It's sort of life-changing. Absolutely love it. And Scooch has been a great sponsor of this channel. If you're interested in checking out their phone cases, we can get you a deal, 20% off your first purchase. Click the link below me in the notes to the show, and there's I think it's Chris Harris 18 might be the promo code that gets you the 20% off. And if they don't carry a case that fits your phone, they also sell the Wingman. So this just adheres to your current case. It has the same little stand on the back. So check out the Wingman, check out the Scooch case. We thank them very much for sponsoring, and Lauren and Ron really like their cases. Okay, back at it, and my number 4 predicted bust for 2019 is Eric Ebron, murder holes himself, the Colts tight end. He's had an amazing year, the former number 10 overall pick, 4 pretty bad years in Detroit, suddenly 12 touchdowns for the Colts. He's the number 4 player in fantasy at a position that is clearly dying in the modern NFL. So the temptation may be to say, let's do this. Let's consider Eric Ebron part of the exception and reach for him next year. Kelsey, Ertz, Kittle, Ebron? I mean, maybe it actually might not be outrageous to consider Ebron top 5 at the position, but I'm going to be real leery reaching for him in drafts under the assumption that I'm getting one of the exceptions at the position. Why is that? First off, Jack Doyle, I assume, will return, a better blocker than Ebron. You know, he's on the field more, and Frank Reich's offense uses multiple tight ends when they have them as much as anyone in the league. Just as importantly, Ebron's hands themselves haven't suddenly gotten better. They are very, very bad catching footballs, which is why we have a tendency to call him murder holes. And it hasn't been that much of a problem for him this year in terms of affecting his playing time. That might be because Doyle has got injured. I am frightened of paying a premium for a dude who has this much trouble catching a ball. Again, it might not be outrageous to consider ranking Ebron in the top 5 at the position. But if we're going to take him in the 5th or the 6th round, where people start paying a premium for tight end, I will not be doing that. Number 3 on my list is Marlon Mack, who I don't have beef with, and who currently sits as RB20 in fantasy right now, despite missing most of the season's first month. Double-digit carries most every time he hasn't been injured in a game. A whopper of a high-profile game a couple weeks ago against the Cowboys, where he had 27 carries. He has 9 touchdowns in 12 games. I think there's going to be some movement for Marlon Mack to be considered a clear top 20 fantasy back in 2019, and possibly some momentum to get him into the top 15. I'm not here to tell you Mack is a bad player. I think he has good acceleration, a little twitchiness in the open field. He's not slow. He's relatively agile. To me, though, something a little bit missing with Marlon Mack. Maybe, first of all, I find him just sort of too easy to knock off stride for a 6 foot, 210-pound player. You see glancing blows getting him off his line. You see safeties reaching out with one arm and taking him down. For someone who's a really good athlete, he's not much of a receiver. And, when we show you drops here, first of all, I swear we're not just repurposing the Eric Ebron highlights we just showed you. Mack has either 1 or 2 targets in 8 of his 12 games, while Nyheim Hines has taken over that work almost entirely. Sometimes Mack has success in short yardage, but not usually when there's a pile in his way. None of which is to say he's bad. He's a pretty good player, but you know how RB2 is. It drops off really fast, and if there's a temptation to say, man, at least Mack is pretty safe, let's grab him, end of round 2, beginning round 3, that feels like what people have often said about the career of Lamar Miller, a dude who I compare Mack to relatively frequently. A lot needs to get decided in Indianapolis. If Le'Veon Bell is there, all bets are off anyway. I'm guessing I don't view Mack as some ascendant guy who gets way better than he's been in 2018 and therefore overvalued. My number 2 bust for next year, probably the ultimate unfair pick. It's Mark Ingram, and I'm not even going to nitpick and show you bad Mark Ingram plays, anything like that. At this point, I think everyone has a good sense of what Ingram is. Really tough guy for someone who's 5'9 and 215. I think he runs bigger than that. 215's sizable anyway, but he's a rolling ball of butcher knives. Tough to get on the ground. Not a lot of wiggle. Doesn't really even try to cut a lot of the time. He's in the punishment delivery business, and when he has an open lane, he can accelerate pretty well. And remember, he also has a couple 50-catch seasons in his career. He was suspended for the first 4 games of 2018. He came out of the gate in a national TV game against Washington, went crazy, but he's definitely taken a back seat to Alvin Kamara since then. 10 to 12 carries a game. Kamara the likelier touchdown maker. Ingram just turned 29. He is pretty good. Reason he ends up on this list is he's a free agent. And for the moment, I'm assuming the Saints won't pay big money to keep him. And I'm assuming he wants big money because he's nearing the end. One more big contract. Is there a team out there willing to give Ingram the Marshawn Lynch contract? The $7 million guarantee, the $8 million guarantee. I think there might be. And my point including Ingram here is, I don't know if he's the dude who carries your offense. I think in the Drew Brees system, he's had way more open space than he'd have in most other landing spots. And I'm not sure the 215-pound power back is the future of the NFL or if that really sells everywhere. Honestly, Lynch himself might be most instructive. Later career Marshawn Lynch got hurt, missed a whole season, came back, was good for the Raiders, not great, and then got hurt again this year. Similar size, similar style, similar age. If and when Ingram is installed as somebody's number 1 running back in what I assume will be a lesser offense than the Saints, I think people are going to draft him a lot higher than I want to draft him. And at number 1, I have James White. This would have been an easier call a month or so ago when I was fighting off calls that James White would be an RB1 for the rest of the season. You'll recall from the podcast, I implored you to trade him away at the peak of his value, which I certainly hope you did. But still, cumulatively, White continues to be, as of my recording this, he's the RB8 in PPR, RB12 in standard. And, nobody is going to be so gullible as to rank him there for 2019, people aren't going to be considering him a first-round pick. But I won't be surprised at all when we get the clever commentary that goes, well, I mean, there's basically one constant in the Brady offense. James White is going to get 90 catches. But is he really? Are you 100% sure of that? Because James White had never topped 60 catches before this season, and that's to say nothing of him as a runner. This is a touchdown-laden season. The pro James White argument, it's all about touches from scrimmage. Fine, I'm not going to get 200 carries, but I will get 12 touches every single week. Half of those are going to be catches, so PPR, that helps. And I'll take my 1,000 yards from scrimmage and my 11 touchdowns and laugh all the way to the bank, third round. But I really don't think so. I acknowledge there are many smaller backs who they become important parts of platoons or even lead parts of platoons in the modern NFL. We have to pay attention to Phillip Lindsay, Tariq Cohen, other smaller guys. But I watch James White as a running back, and he's just not like those guys. He's not fast, not all that quick, runs with zero power. He's a change of pace player who got carries for some of this year out of necessity. And, just the moment you thought you were trusting him as an RB1, the Patriots decided, we're worried we're going to break this guy. We have to dial it way back. And they did. After 6 straight weeks of more than 10 touches, in the 6 weeks since, he hasn't exceeded 10 touches once. This whole James White thing is about touchdowns, and it's a hard way for a little dude to make a living, especially without great quickness or great speed, taking screens in the red zone to the house every week. Sony Michel, I'm willing to listen. I'm not 100% excited about him yet. He deserves to go way in front of James White. So there you have it. Those are my very early busts for 2019. I reserve the right to change my mind based on what winds up happening with the personnel and what these teams look like in 2019. But I'd love to hear what you think of my picks, and also who are your busts for 2019. You can leave them down in the comments and see what folks think. In the meantime, we thank you very much for watching, and we will see you on the next show. Thanks so much for watching. Please, please, please smash that like button, write a comment, tell us who else you'd like to see us review film on, and of course, best of all, please subscribe to our channel and then click that little bell above the subscribe button, and you'll be notified whenever we post a new video.